The month opened with a strong signal from Baku, where heads of government and vice presidents of the Organization of Turkic States gathered for a high-level meeting and were received by President Ilham Aliyev. In his remarks, the president underscored a clear priority: deepening integration within the Turkic world. This emphasis was not merely rhetorical. He highlighted tangible progress, noting that trade and investment among member states are on the rise. Azerbaijan alone has invested over $20 billion and established joint funds with Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. Central Asian partners are also contributing to the reconstruction of Karabakh, supporting projects ranging from schools to cultural institutions. Turkish companies, meanwhile, continue to play a leading role in infrastructure development. Azerbaijan's contributions extend beyond its borders as well, including a $100 million allocation for post-earthquake housing in Kahramanmaraş. The meeting concluded with a joint statement reaffirming a shared commitment to deeper economic integration and expressing support for Azerbaijan's upcoming 2025 to 2026 chairmanship. Azerbaijan-Georgia relations emerged as another key highlight of the month. During President Ilham Aliyev's state visit on April 6, meetings with Georgian President Mikhail Karalarashvili and Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhedze reinforced a partnership already foundational to regional energy and transit systems. Pipelines such as the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan and the Southern Gas Corridor were highlighted not merely as infrastructure, but as geopolitical assets anchoring the South Caucasus as a vital bridge between continents. The message was clear: stability in the region is increasingly tied to cooperation rather than competition. In press statements, the Georgian Prime Minister underlined the steady development of bilateral ties, mutual support for territorial integrity, and Georgia's backing of peace efforts in the South Caucasus. President Ilham Aliyev emphasized strong economic momentum, noting that trade exceeded $800 million last year and could reach $1 billion if current growth continues. He also stressed Azerbaijan's significant investments in Georgia and the potential for new joint projects. Overall, the visit underscored not only strong bilateral ties but also a shared vision of the South Caucasus as a region of growing stability, connectivity, and cooperation. This expanding international engagement was further reflected in Azerbaijan's growing ties with European partners, most notably Latvia. The visit of President Edgars Rinkēvičs on April 22 marked a shift from strong political dialogue to practical cooperation. A number of key agreements were signed, covering internal affairs, agriculture, consular cooperation, plant health protection, and border security. The two presidents also adopted a joint statement outlining a strengthened strategic partnership. President Ilham Aliyev stressed that while political relations are strong, the priority now lies in practical cooperation. He highlighted key areas for growth: trade and investment, energy cooperation, connectivity, and digital transformation. President Rinkēvičs described Azerbaijan as a strategic partner and friend, pointing to opportunities in defense, transport, pharmaceuticals, and regional logistics. He also emphasized potential cooperation in forestry and reconstruction efforts in Karabakh. People-to-people ties were also in focus, with more than 450 Azerbaijani students currently studying in Latvia. Both sides discussed the possibility of launching direct flights to further strengthen business, tourism, and cultural exchange. That same pragmatic tone carried into the Azerbaijan-Latvia Business Forum, where the focus shifted to economic transformation. Opening the forum, President Ilham Aliyev highlighted Azerbaijan's evolving economic landscape, noting that the non-oil sector now accounts for over 70% of GDP, supported by strong financial stability and low foreign debt. He emphasized that Azerbaijan's energy portfolio continues to expand from oil and natural gas to electricity, petrochemicals, and, increasingly, green energy. With significant solar and wind potential, renewables are becoming a key area for future investment. For European partners, this reinforces Azerbaijan's dual identity, both a reliable energy supplier and a forward-looking economic partner. President Rinkēvičs, in turn, reaffirmed Latvia's readiness to support deeper cooperation between Azerbaijan and European institutions, highlighting the importance of economic and energy partnerships. From European cooperation, attention shifted toward broader geopolitical engagement. On April 25, President Ilham Aliyev met with President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky in Gabala. The leaders held both one-on-one and expanded meetings, discussing the full spectrum of bilateral relations. They emphasized strong political ties and mutual support for sovereignty and territorial integrity, while also exploring opportunities to expand cooperation in energy, agriculture, trade, and intergovernmental dialogue. President Aliyev highlighted SOCA's long-standing presence in Ukraine and noted strong potential for joint industrial and military technical projects. He also pointed out that bilateral trade has already exceeded $500 million. President Zelensky expressed gratitude for Azerbaijan's humanitarian assistance, including support for Ukrainian children and energy aid packages during challenging periods. He emphasized the importance of deepening cooperation in security, defense production, and energy. Notably, he also stated that Ukraine would consider Azerbaijan as a potential venue for future negotiations with Russia, should conditions allow. Azerbaijan's active international engagement also continued on the global stage at the 5th Antalya Diplomacy Forum. The event brought together world leaders to discuss major issues like conflict resolution and energy security, giving Azerbaijan a chance to share its perspective on post-conflict developments in the South Caucasus. Through a series of high-level meetings and active engagement, the country strengthened its international partnerships and reinforced its role as an emerging regional player. Bilateral engagement also advanced through strengthened ties with Central Europe. An official visit by Czech Prime Minister Andrej Babiš stood out as another key moment of the month. During meetings in Gabala, both sides focused on expanding political dialogue and deepening cooperation across multiple sectors. Economic ties were central to discussions, with trade turnover exceeding $800 million. Both countries expressed interest in diversifying beyond oil and increasing investment flows. Energy cooperation remained a priority, with Azerbaijan continuing to support Europe's energy security, while the Czech Republic explored long-term gas supply agreements. Defense cooperation, joint production projects, and Czech involvement in infrastructure and industrial development were also discussed. The visit concluded with both leaders reaffirming their strategic partnership and commitment to expanding cooperation. This momentum carried into the Azerbaijan-Czech Business Forum held on April 27. President Ilham Aliyev highlighted Azerbaijan's stable economy, favorable investment climate, and major infrastructure projects, including those in renewable energy and transport corridors. He invited Czech businesses to invest in key sectors such as industry, energy, transport, and tourism. Prime Minister Babiš described Azerbaijan as a strategic partner and confirmed Czechia's strong interest in expanding cooperation, particularly in energy, defense, and transport. He noted that Azerbaijan is the largest supplier of crude oil to the Czech Republic, accounting for 42% of its supply, adding, "You are number one." The forum brought together dozens of Czech companies, signaling strong business interest and laying the groundwork for a deeper economic partnership. Despite the growing relations with individual European countries, Azerbaijan has sharply criticized recent resolutions adopted by the European Parliament on April 30, 2026, as well as earlier statements passed on April 16 by the Chambers of Representatives of Belgium and the Netherlands, stating that these documents are biased, distort facts, and undermine the Azerbaijan-Armenia peace and normalization process. The Milli Majlis of the Republic of Azerbaijan rejected the resolutions, saying they contain unfounded claims regarding the country's sovereignty and internal affairs. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs also summoned EU Ambassador Marionika Djundžić to issue a formal protest. During the meeting, the ministry said the European Parliament's resolution misrepresents the situation in the Karabakh region, calling references to Armenian residents' return and so-called prisoners of war legally and factually incorrect. It also dismissed allegations regarding cultural and religious heritage destruction, arguing that Azerbaijan's position and reintegration efforts are being overlooked. Baku urged the EU to refrain from steps it says could damage bilateral relations and the regional peace process. Azerbaijan and Armenia held the 13th meeting of their state border delimitation commissions on April 29, 2026, in Azerbaijan. The sides discussed key technical and organizational issues and agreed on draft procedures for expert group operations, map preparation, and documentation. They also noted progress in economic cooperation, including the transit of goods through Azerbaijan to Armenia and the supply of Azerbaijani oil products, signaling cautiously improving ties. Business representatives from both countries discussed expanding trade, supplies of goods and services, and transit transportation. The meeting concluded with the signing of a protocol and an agreement to hold the next session in Azerbaijan. Complementing official negotiations, civil society dialogue also gained momentum. From April 10 through 12, representatives of Azerbaijani and Armenian civil society gathered in Gabala for a bilateral roundtable held within the framework of the Peace Bridge Initiative, aimed at promoting dialogue and confidence building between the two countries. The meeting brought together NGOs, media representatives, and think tanks to discuss the current state of the peace process, regional security, and future cooperation in the South Caucasus. In a symbolic move, the Armenian delegation entered Azerbaijan through a formally delimited land border crossing and completed all official border and passport procedures. During the talks, participants also met with Hikmet Hajiv, who reaffirmed Azerbaijan's commitment to the bilateral peace agenda endorsed at the August 8, 2025 Trilateral Summit in Washington. Discussions additionally focused on trade relations, regional transit, and the proposed Trip Transport Initiative, while both sides stressed the importance of continued direct engagement between civil societies to support lasting peace in the region.